I didn't believe in bad houses before I bought that one. I believed in bad wiring, bad insulation, bad luck. I believed stress could make you hear things and exhaustion could make you imagine patterns where none existed. I believed fear was something your brain did to you when it ran out of reasonable explanations. I believed all of that until the house started waking me up. The first time it felt ordinary enough that I almost forgot it by morning. I woke suddenly, heart racing, convinced I'd been startled by a noise that evaporated the second I opened my eyes. The room was dark and quiet. No footsteps, no voices, no wind rattling the windows. Just the low, empty silence of a house after midnight. I lay there listening to my own breathing, waiting for the adrenaline to drain out of my body. That was when I noticed how still everything felt. Not peaceful still, held still, like the air itself was waiting. Then I heard it, a soft scraping sound, slow and deliberate, coming from the wall beside my bed. It wasn't loud, it wasn't frantic. It sounded like a fingernail being drawn carefully across painted drywall. I didn't move. The sound stopped immediately, as if whatever made it knew I'd noticed. I stayed frozen for a long moment, then reached over and turned on the lamp. The yellow light spilled across the room, flattening the shadows. The wall looked exactly the way it always had, beige wallpaper, faint blue flowers. No cracks or marks or bulges. I laughed under my breath, embarrassed at how fast my heart was beating, and told myself it was an old house doing old house things. Pipes cooling, wood settling, nothing more. My phone vibrated on the nightstand. I picked it up, squinting at the screen. A notification from the sleep tracking app my sister had convinced me to download. Sleep interruption detected, 30:17 a.m. I glanced at the clock on the dresser. The red numbers glowed back at me. 30:17. I shrugged it off, turned off the lamp, and went back to sleep. I didn't know then that the house had already decided when I belonged to it. I bought the place because it was cheap, and because I was tired of my life feeling temporary. I'd spent years renting apartments that never quite felt like mine, working a job that paid the bills but drained me in ways I didn't know how to explain. When my landlord announced a rent increase that would swallow most of my paycheck, something in me snapped. I didn't want to keep running in place. The house had been on the market for months. Built in the 1920s, narrow but tall, with a sagging front porch and tall windows that made the light inside feel filtered and weak. The price was low enough to make me suspicious, but not low enough to feel like a trap. The listing described it as full of character. The realtor said it had good bones. The first time I walked inside, I noticed how cool it felt compared to the street outside. Not drafty, just cooler. Like the house didn't care what season it was. Most of the rooms felt fine, old but solid, except for the smallest bedroom at the end of the hallway. That room smelled faintly metallic, like old pennies or blood that had been scrubbed away too many times. I mentioned it casually. The realtor laughed and said it was probably old carpet. The basement had a narrow wooden door in the far corner that looked newer than everything else around it. When I asked about it, the realtor said it was storage and moved on quickly. The inspection report came back clean, except for one line buried near the end. Unidentified intermittent noise reported by previous occupants. I ignored it. The second night, the house knocked on my bedroom door. Evenly spaced tap, tap, tap. I sat up so fast I felt dizzy. The hallway was dark. The door didn't move. I checked the time, 30:17. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty. The third night, I heard footsteps climbing the stairs. Slow, careful steps that stopped right outside my bedroom. I heard breathing on the other side of the door. It wasn't loud, but it was close enough that my skin prickled. The moment I turned on the light, it stopped. By the end of the week, I wasn't sleeping so much as waiting. Every night, no matter how tired I was, my body woke me up just before 3:17, like it had learned the schedule. The sounds changed, but the time never did. Tapping moved from the door to the walls. Scraping followed lines that didn't exist during the day. Once, I pressed my palm to the wall and felt warmth beneath the wallpaper, like something alive had just moved away. I tried to record it. The video glitched exactly at 30:17, filling the screen with static. When it cleared, there was a shadow beside my bed that wasn't mine. It was too tall, too narrow, and it was standing where the wall should have been. That was when I stopped telling myself I was imagining things. I asked my sister to come over. She tried to laugh it off until she heard the tapping herself, until she stood in the small bedroom and smelled the metallic air, until the scraping started inside the closet wall while she watched. She left pale and shaking and begged me to stay with her. I did, but the house didn't stay behind. The first night on her couch, I woke at 30:17 to 3 taps on the living room wall. The hallway light turned on by itself. Something breathed from inside the wall, close enough that my skin crawled. It wasn't the house anymore. It was me. I sold the house as fast as I could, lied to the buyers, signed the papers without looking back. I told myself it was over. That night, something tapped on my second floor window. Tap, tap, tap. A shape stood outside the glass, darker than the dark around it, still and patient. When it leaned closer, the window fogged from the inside. It whispered my name. That was when I understood the truth I'd been avoiding. The house hadn't been haunting me. It had been teaching me. After the thing appeared at the window, Jenna stopped asking if I was okay and started asking what we were going to do. The difference mattered. One assumed rest could fix it. The other meant she knew it couldn't. Mark came over early the next morning, stiff and quiet, the way he got when he was trying to stay rational in a situation that no longer deserved it. He checked the locks, the window ledge, the siding outside Jenna's apartment. There was nowhere for anyone to stand, nothing to grab onto, no explanation that fit. "I believe you," he said finally, and the way he said it scared me more than disbelief ever could. Jenna found Ruth through a local group online. Someone recommended her in a comment thread between posts about electricians and lost dogs. The phrase they used was unwanted attachments. Ruth didn't look like I expected. No robes, no crystals. She wore jeans boots and a gray sweater that looked like it had been washed too many times. Her eyes were sharp, tired, and observant. She stepped inside Jenna's apartment, paused, and said, "It followed you." No greeting, no hesitation. She moved straight to the living room wall where I'd heard the tapping the first night. She placed her palm against it, closed her eyes briefly, then stepped back. "This isn't a ghost," she said. "It's a pattern." I told her everything the house, the time, the tapping, the seams, the whispering, the window. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she nodded once. "You were trained." The word made my stomach twist. "You wake at the same time every night," she said. "You expect it. You listen. That expectation is the doorway. It doesn't force itself in. It waits for you to open." That night, Ruth stayed. She had us remove all visible clocks, phones face down, microwave covered, Not because time would stop, she explained, but because my attention to it was part of the mechanism. We sat in the living room with the lights low. Not dark, not bright, balanced. As the night deepened, my body reacted before my mind did. My pulse sped up, my muscles tightened. Anticipation crawled through me like static. Then the hallway light clicked on. 3 taps came from inside the wall. Tap, tap, tap. My whole body leaned forward without permission. Ruth grabbed my wrist hard. "No," she said. "Don't answer." The whisper came, my name soft and patient. Ruth leaned close. "Say this," she whispered, "to yourself. I do not open." I forced the words out. "I do not open." The tapping stopped. The air shifted, heavy with attention. Something lingered, listening. Then it withdrew. That night didn't end the problem. It changed it. Over the next several nights, the thing tried new approaches. Lights flickered. Tapping came from floors instead of walls. Once, Jenna's bathroom mirror fogged from the inside and the word "open" appeared briefly before vanishing. Ruth explained that it was adapting. Losing its original doorway made it test others. "Patterns don't like to die," she said. "They try to evolve." The worst night came when I woke unable to move. Something stood beside the bed, not fully visible, but present in a way that made the air feel heavier near it. 3 taps pressed into the mattress beside my hip, then a whisper, closer than ever. "Open." I fought my body, my jaw, my breath. "I do not open." I rasped. The pressure lifted. The presence vanished. Ruth arrived the next morning and listened grimly. "That was the lock," she said. "Sleep paralysis is the final doorway. If it gets you there, you won't fight it next time." She told us the truth I didn't want to hear. To end it, we had to go back to the house. The new owners answered Jenna's call already shaken. They'd heard the tapping, smelled the metallic air, woken at the same time. Ruth told them to leave the house for one night. That evening, we stood outside the house again. The porch sagged the same way it always had. The windows looked empty. Inside, the air felt heavy, familiar. Ruth led us upstairs. The small bedroom at the end of the hall smelled like pennies. Faint seams already strained beneath the wallpaper. "You don't cross the threshold," Ruth told me. "You stand here?" The tapping began. 3 taps from inside the wall. The seam opened slowly, folding back like skin. Darkness waited behind it, depth without space. My name whispered from inside. My body leaned forward. "I do not open." "Open," I said. More seams split open down the hallway. The house seemed to breathe. From the darkness, a hand emerged. Long fingers, wrong joints. It hovered, unable to cross. Ruth stepped forward, holding an old metal key. "This is not your door," she said. She pressed the key into the air in front of the seam and turned it. The house groaned. The seam snapped shut all at once. The wallpaper flattened. The metallic smell vanished. Silence rushed in. Outside, the cold air felt clean and sharp. My lungs filled like they hadn't in weeks. That night, nothing came. The following nights were quiet, uneasy, but quiet. The new owners reported the same. Over time, my body stopped waking on its own. The number lost its power. The urge to check faded. I moved again. I kept no clocks in my bedroom. I refused to listen for cues. Once, months later, I woke suddenly and felt that old tension rise. I whispered the words and waited. Nothing answered. I don't know if the pattern is gone forever. I know only this. Fear is a doorway. Attention is a key, and I don't open.